right, here we go. Shut this down. Here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. If you're just joining us, first I want to say thank you for your patience. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and I am your host for the Ask Marvel Lunch Hour Live, which is hosted every weekday, a Wednesday, from noon to 1 p.m. And it is hosted by the Philadelphia Sunday Sun. You can follow the Philadelphia Sunday Sun at the Philadelphia Sunday Sun on Facebook and at the Philadelphia Sunday Sun on Instagram and Twitter. As you are aware, we carry conversations, topics that are incredibly interesting so that we can help people who want to move forward. Everything we do on Ask Mother, it's lighthearted. We have a lot of fun. We talk about things that will make people think about what they are doing. And we also look for solutions. And so today, my Black History highlight is a mother and daughter who were brave and faced some challenges that I'm going to talk about momentarily. But Carla Clanagan sent me a link 2 Sundays ago, I believe it was, and she said, "Take a look at this." And I looked at the link and said, "Holy camole." Okay, we most definitely have to talk about this. What Carla was not aware of at the time is that this topic that she wanted me to discuss, hold on, let me just make sure I'm doing this, is one that I experienced myself, right? And the statistics around it is something that most people don't talk about. And so I want to welcome Mackenzie Clanagan to the show. Welcome to Muva. I am going to do my disclaimer so we can get moving, all right? So I'm going to share the screen and we're going to do the disclaimer because I don't want anybody to say Muva didn't say it. The advice offered during the Ask Marvel Lunch Hour Live is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. Use of this broadcast is not intended to replace or substitute for any professional, financial, medical, legal, or other advice. If you have specific concerns or a situation in which you require professional, psychological, or medical help, you should consult an appropriately trained and qualified specialist. The Ask Marvel Lunch Hour Live, its host, yours truly, the Philadelphia Sunday Sun newspaper and publisher, are not responsible for the outcomes or results of any given advice in any given situation. You and only you are completely responsible for your actions. All right, so here we go. This is about to be a show that it's one that I believe is going to be shared over and again. I just want to make sure that I have it up here because I have three screens going on. You heard me talking to my husband 2 minutes ago, like, take this screen because it's not doing what it's supposed to do. So I have a bunch of screens going on so that I can talk to the Philadelphia Sunday Sun viewing audience because what they'll do is they'll type in, what they want to talk about, and I just want to make sure that they're here for me to hear them. So this is good stuff. Good afternoon, all of you. You already know what time it is with Mother. We're not even playing these games in this Wakandan streets. I just want to, there we go. I just want to make sure that I was live over here and that I could switch this over so I could talk to each and every one of you. Okay. All right. So 2 Sundays ago, I get this link from Carla Clanagan, and she told me to watch it. And I immediately asked her to send Mackenzie to me, send my way, because what I had watched was Mackenzie detailing an incident that happened to her when she was a senior in high school. Mackenzie is your typical teenager. I mean, she reminded me of my two sons, right? Grew up in the suburbs. Life is wonderful. We're doing track. We're doing, all the things, little black and brown children doing in their schools, and she's just having a good old time, honey. And she is popular, and she's well loved, and her grades are all that and a bag of basket chips, right? And then Mackenzie decided that she wanted to date. And herein lies the story. So I'm going to let Mackenzie share bits and pieces of this with you. But I'm going to, she has this beautiful thing called Z's Reflection, which is what I call my son, by the way. His name is Alexander, and I call him Z. That is his nickname. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's so great. Mackenzie Clanagan is the founder of a dating violence program called Z's Reflection. She also blogs under the same name. Mackenzie is a survivor thriver of dating violence. Her incident occurred in 2017 during her senior year of high school. After going through the recovery and court process, God laid it upon her heart to create Z's Reflection. Over the past 4 years, she has had multiple speaking engagements at churches, youth groups, women's, and youth conferences. Last year, she returned to her high school and spoke to the entire student body and faculty. She has appeared on the TV talk show Hands Off on CBS News. Mackenzie also had a radio interview on KYW News Radio. She is a youth leader for a local domestic violence organization, Peer Group Support for Victims. She's pursuing a bachelor's degree in integrated marketing and communications at Slippery Rock University, where she is a senior. So proud of you, child. You could be my own child. It's delicious. She's employed part time as a resident assistant at a safe house for survivors of human sex trafficking. And in her free time, when she has it, because she is a black woman that rocks, she enjoys journaling, fitness, and spending time with her family. Let me give you some statistics because I think people tend to not believe this. I'm going to give you the national statistics first, and then we're going to move in. The national domestic violence statistics said that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will experience severe physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime. 1 in 10 women in the United States will be raped by an intimate partner in her lifetime, according to the Centers for Disease Control in 2010. Approximately 16.9% of women and 8% of men will experience sexual violence other than rape by an intimate partner at some point in their lifetime. The other piece that I wanted to speak to you about is domestic violence. Over half of female and male victims of rape, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner experience some form of intimate partner violence for the first time before the age of 25. That piece was very important to me, right? Almost half, 47.5% of American Indian Alaska Native women, 45.1% of non-Hispanic black women, 37.3% of non-Hispanic white women, and 34.4% of Hispanic women, and 18.3% of Asian Pacific Islander women experience contact sexual violence, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner. The same is true for domestic violence statistics on sexual orientation. 2 in 5 lesbian women, 3 in 5 bisexual women, and 1 in 3 heterosexual women will experience rape, 1 in 4 gay men, and 1 in 3 bisexual men. Okay, so I did that, and then I went to the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence because I want us to have a serious conversation. And we tend to think that only women get raped, only women go through this kind of abuse. And what we're seeing as we move through society is that there are tons of men who have lived in shame and silence because they were raped by their priests, they were raped by their fathers, they were the violence, the physical and emotional violence in the home has been untenable. And so, Mackenzie, when I tell you your story today is off the chain, I can't tell you. 1 in 4 women in Pennsylvania, 1 in 4, affected by domestic violence, right? And 1 in 7 men. We spent $156 billion, estimated lifetime economic burden of intimate partner violence in Pennsylvania, and 2,630 people were served in one day alone in Pennsylvania. 112 of those victims have died. 46% were killed by a current or former intimate partner. Good afternoon, Mackenzie Clanagan. Good afternoon. I feel like I know you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure. I feel like I know you. Carla, have we met?
Yes, we met I was a Game Changer winner, but last year we met at the Game Changer event with Cherry.
With Cherry. Oh, okay. So and then your mother jumped on my Facebook page, and we've been hanging and banging ever since, right?
But
So
I think I did a human trafficking thing for you too.
yes, you
On your
did on
shows.
WURD radio.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to you, and that's why I know you so well. You see, I didn't make the connection till just now. Okay, so here you are raising your beautiful child. How many children do you have, Carla?
Two.
You have two. Is Mackenzie the oldest?
No, she has an older brother who's 24.
Okay, all right. So, where was Mackenzie in school? I'm going to get you in a minute, Mackenzie, because I'm going to let you tell your story. Where was Mackenzie in school when you noticed that something was different about her?
She was in high school at Perkiomen Valley High School.
Mm-hmm. And when did you
And
start to notice something was different?
um so Mackenzie was always considered a responsible teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And we noticed that She got a car when she turned 16,
Mhm.
and we noticed that she was going further out, right? Give them a car, they kind of go outside of the immediate area.
Mhm.
But so her times were a little bit off occasionally.
Mhm.
She'd say she was at a friend's house, and that should take like 10 minutes to get home. It would
Mhm.
take like 20.
Mhm.
And knowing that she's like a very responsible kid, we were, she always had an answer. I'm like, what took you so long? And she would say things like, oh, we kept talking, or I stayed a little longer, or
Mhm.
she would go to King of Prussia Mall and say, I'm on my way home. That's 20 minutes.
Mhm.
It would take 35 minutes.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm that mom that just like pays attention to everything.
Mhm.
I'm all in her business all the time.
And so, Mackenzie, when your mom was asking you all those questions, what were you doing and where were you?
I was with my ex-boyfriend who
Mhm.
was abusive.
Mhm.
He didn't drive, so I would always pick him up. He lived about 15 minutes away from me.
Mhm.
Um, I lived in Collegeville. He lived in Norristown.
Mhm.
So my answers were just, when I told you I was leaving, I actually ran into one more store, or I would
Mhm.
come up with these quick, short excuses that sounded perfect
Mhm. Uh-huh. In your head.
in my head.
We've been here before, Mackenzie, so we know when you all are not telling the truth. We're just waiting for you to hang yourself, right?
Yep, that's
So,
exactly.
yeah. So, did your mother and father know you were dating this person?
No.
Tell me why you didn't tell them. I'm asking these questions because I want folks to hear the story
Yep.
to understand.
Yes.
Because you know why you didn't tell them? Because you knew off the bat something wasn't right. And
I
you ignored your gut instinct. I'm telling you as a mom, I'm just letting you know.
that no, that's really why I didn't tell them I started dating this guy, because I knew they wouldn't approve of him.
Hmm.
I wasn't raised like that. I was going completely against my home rules and
Values.
values, and so I didn't tell them because I knew they would completely shut it down as soon as I told them.
Hmm. Hmm. And so you were so intrigued, right? He was
He was
cute.
cute, curly
Told you that he
hair,
loved you.
light
Mm,
skin.
like, girl, I understand, honey. And so all this was going on. So you knew instinctively that your parents would not approve of him. And so you kept the relationship a secret.
Yes.
When did you start to become concerned that something was not quite right with this relationship?
It's crazy because this didn't start off right off the jump. We were actually together for like close to a year,
Mm-hmm.
and then I started noticing signs.
Mm-hmm.
The red flag signs were he started telling me what I can wear and what I can't wear.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of guy best friends. I was a social person. He told me I can't be friends with my guy best friends anymore.
Mm-hmm.
When I wasn't answering his phone, not on purpose, just because I was doing something, he
Mm-hmm.
would contact my friends and say, "Where's Mackenzie? What is she
Mm-hmm.
doing?"
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So he
he,
will call your friends.
yes.
Uh-huh.
And then a week before my incident, that's when he started becoming like like physical abusive. He would throw things at me. He would take my phone, throw my phone, throw water on me, kind of hit me around, and then that's when I knew. I was like, I have to stop this.
Okay, Mackenzie. So when he started throwing things at you and throwing water at you and pushing you around, at any point in there did you think I need to let my parents know, or did you think my parents are going to kill me if they find out this is what I'm is happening to me?
I wanted to tell my parents so bad, but I knew I would be in a lot of trouble.
Mhm.
But we don't tell our parents these things because we're scared of getting in trouble.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's why I didn't tell.
Mhm. Mhm. So the week of the incident, where were you? Did you break it off with him? What happened?
Yeah, so oh the during the week, the incident happened on the weekend. During the week, I distanced myself. Tried
Mhm.
to let him know, I need some space. Well, let's take a break. At first, I wanted to do that, but he didn't get the hint of that. He would still blow my phone up. So I was like, okay, I have to be done with you. I'm breaking up with you. And I had to block him. I had to block him.
Mhm.
I blocked him the day of the incident,
Mhm.
and he actually messaged my mom on Facebook the night before he did this to me and said, "Hey, just checking in. Is Mackenzie okay? I haven't heard from her."
So Carla, when that happened, did you not think that was strange?
I definitely did. That was my red flag because this was a kid that my husband and I only met one time.
Uh-huh.
And when we met him, like when we found out about the relationship, we're like, we need to meet him. She brought him over for us to meet. And right off the, I mean, we're Christian parents. So like right off the bat, my discernment, my red flags, everything's going off.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the way it was the way he carried himself.
Mm-hmm. So
Um,
give us some clues around the way he
he
carried himself.
was standoffish. He
Mm-hmm.
came in like he was the man. He sat on the couch like, it was all about him. He had
How
like
old was he?
17. He had that cocky attitude,
Mm-hmm.
like he wasn't concerned about my husband.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked for with him for a little bit. The last thing that my husband said to him was, if you ever hurt my daughter, there's going to be problems.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So immediately after he left, I did my investigation, right? So I work in the criminal justice system. So I'm doing a background check. I'm looking on his docket sheets. I'm looking for any juvenile records,
Mm-hmm.
any YouTube videos. I'm on social media, and all I see is this kid is a fighter. He's had police contact,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things that I would not, there would be a red flag to say this is not the kid for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so
And
all
did
of
you
that
talk to
happened.
Mackenzie after you saw all of that, or did you just keep that to
Oh,
yourself?
no, no, no. I told her immediately.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. As soon as she came back home, we had a very long talk, my husband and I with her. And then her and I talked about it. Um, just how I told her that the kid that she's involved with is going to want more than she's willing to give.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what did you
And I
think,
showed her the
Mackenzie?
videos of him having police contact.
Ah, and Mackenzie, when you saw that, what did you think?
I was a little confused
Mm-hmm.
because it's not the way I see him.
Mm-hmm.
I saw him.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was just a mom being a mom. Like, you really dug deep, mom, to find these old videos. Like, you need to relax. So it was just like teenage mind, like, mom, relax.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't think anything deeper.
Okay, and how long after the time that your mother did her research on this person? Because you see, parents have that 10th instinct. You know, we don't have that third, we have the 10th instinct. We know when it comes to our children when something isn't right. So, how long after your mother said this to you did you decide to break up with him?
2 weeks.
Yeah, like 2.5, 3 weeks.
Mm, mm, Miss Mackenzie.
Yeah.
Mm, okay. Hmm. So you wouldn't give your mother the benefit of the doubt, but you saw it for yourself, right? And okay, so you decided to break up with him. You told him you didn't want to be with him anymore. You blocked his phone from reaching yours. He reached out to your mother via Facebook. Your mother thought something was strange, and then what happened after that?
I
So
called you.
yeah, I wasn't home. My One of my best friends, he's a guy.
Uh huh.
Um, we went out and we were gonna just hang out because he knew I was feeling a little upset.
Mhm.
And while I was leaving the house, like, we just got in the car, you call me
I
and
called her when I got the message,
Mhm.
and I'm like, why did he inbox me looking for you?
Mhm.
Like, why is he asking me where you're at? Because his inbox was like, hi, he told me his name. Hi, this is what his name is. And is Mackenzie okay because she's not answering my phone
Mm.
calls? And
Mhm.
I'm just worried about her.
Mhm.
And of course, I didn't respond to him. I
Mhm.
immediately called her, like,
Mhm.
why is he asking me this? What does he
Right.
want?
Mhm.
I was just like, oh no, I wanted some space. Everything's okay.
Mhm.
I'll reach out to him and let
Mhm.
him know that I'm okay.
Mhm. Mhm. And so
So I kind of
you went on to hang out with your friend. Where did you guys go?
so we actually went and hung out with our other friends.
Mhm.
Um, and so we were just in a home setting, and as soon as I got there, I had like a weird gut feeling. I had a weird gut feeling because my ex's best friend was there.
Mhm. So let me ask you this. We're talking, we have been talking for 21 minutes. Do you know how many times you ignored your gut instincts?
Exactly. A lot.
Okay. All right, because
Mm-hmm.
what we're talking about is going to be a lesson for someone who's watching this, who may watch this and realize that they're in danger and just didn't think much about it at the time, right?
Yes.
So you saw his best friend in the house. Something felt off for you, but you sat down anyway, right? So what happened after that?
As soon as we were there for about 10 minutes, and my best friend Christian, he was like, "Hey, Ken's like, whenever you're ready to go, I'm ready to go." And I was like, "Yeah, let's leave in like 5 minutes."
Mm-hmm.
Within those 5 minutes, there was a knock at the door,
Mm-hmm.
and the knock at the door was my ex,
Mm-hmm.
and he immediately charged after me with a pistol, pistol whipped me to the ground, and then kicked me while I was on the ground.
Wait a minute, Mackenzie. How many people were in the house when this was happening?
Oh, like a good 15. And most, like a lot of guys.
A lot of boys, a lot of young men were in that house,
Mm-hmm.
in that room.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, keep going.
And so my girlfriends that were there, they kind of tried to get me into the bathroom. And
Mm-hmm.
before we could like fully shut it, because all the guys ran, they were scared of him. He knocked down the
Uh-huh.
bathroom door
Mm-hmm.
and
Beat
charged
her
at
up.
me with a closed fist and just started beating me up like I was a whole dude. Just beating me up, cornered
All
me.
right. All right. So let me stop us for a second here and let those of you who are watching us on the Sunday Sun page and will watch this is now a trigger warning, because I want you to know that what we're getting ready to go into now is going to be very graphic in terms of your understanding what Mackenzie went through with this person. He charged into the house after she broke up with him. 15 people in the house, and nobody stopped him, right? Because they were afraid of him. Lord have mercy. Who was this person? And what was going on in his life? Because he was only 16, right? So you know that something was happening there. All right. So he grabbed you out of the bathroom. Then what else happened?
You
Um,
can't.
we were in the room. It was actually like a hotel room. We were in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone ran out. I'm in the bathroom. He's beating me up in the bathroom. I mean, like closed fist, beating me up. And then for some reason he lets me go, and I look in the mirror, and my face is just gushing with blood. I can't see out of my left eye. I was like, oh no, something's really wrong, something's bad. I felt lifeless. I actually felt like I was dying in slow motion.
Mm-hmm.
um, my friend Christian was like, Ken's, come on, follow me. He drove there, and I came with him.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm following my friend Christian down the stairs to get to the lobby, my abuser is holding me at gunpoint the whole time.
So
And my
as you're
two
going down the steps, he's walking with you with the gun at you, pointed at you.
Yes.
No. So who saw this in the hotel lobby as you're leaving? Okay, because see, this is what I'm talking about. See, Carla, you and I are about to come through the whole screen because we understand. How many people saw someone holding a gun to you as you were walking out the hotel lobby, and no, did anybody call 911? This is when I talk about black and brown bodies, how we're not seen and viewed in the same way. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay, all right, keep going.
Yes. The front desk people were there. I'm kind of like, please someone call, like just frantic, but I'm running. They saw it all happen. We get to my friend Christian's car. It's me, Christian, my abuser, and my two girlfriends. I'm in the passenger seat. Christian's driving. My abuser's in the middle back seat, so he has the gun pointed at me the whole time, and my two girlfriends are on the side of him. He tells my friend Christian, go here, and if you don't, go back to my hometown. If you don't, I someone will get shot. So we get to around his hometown, the Norristown area, and my friend Christian just stops the car, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" Like, he didn't say stop the car, like, oh, he's gonna shoot me, and he said, "Go with him. I'm getting you help." And I'm like, "Go with him? What do you mean go with my abuser? He's gonna kill me if I go with him." And he's like, "I promise you." And I listened to him, and I trusted him that he was gonna get me help.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get out the car with my abuser, and my two girlfriends,
Mm-hmm.
they hop out the car, get into our other friend's car, and go home and go to bed that night. Did
So they
not call the
never. So
police.
did you see them again? See, Carla. See, Carla. We're gonna have to put Mackenzie off and come back on another show and talk about girlfriends, the lack thereof, and how we can't trust everybody in our lives. Right?
Yep.
I hope that after that incident that you survived, that those two women were no longer your friends.
Oh,
She
that thing.
never talked to them again after that night.
Okay, okay.
Never ever.
Just want to get this clear because
Yep.
then I'd have to come through the computer screen and have a whole other conversation with you. All right. So you get out the car with your abuser. Christian leaves.
Yes.
Okay. So where did you end up going with the abuser?
I went back to his house. We walked through the town back to his house, but
Gun pointed at you with blood running down your face.
yes. And he's still abusing me as we're on this walk. So before my mom calls me, he kicks me to the ground, he punches on me again, and then I'm on the ground lifeless. Like I feel like I'm dying. And I just tell him, I say, can you just shoot me? I can't do this anymore. Like I just please shoot me. And I will never forget him just pointing the gun at my head, and he just throws the gun and he picks me up and he takes me to his house. But we're almost at his house and I get a phone call from my mom.
All right.
I
So
was
stop
like,
right there. Carla, what happened? How did you end up calling her at that particular point?
Christian had called his mother, who then called the police, and then they called me. And so when they called me, I told my husband, at this point, I'm in bed. So my husband and I are jumping up, grabbing our sweats, jumping in the car. And my husband is losing his
I
mind.
can imagine.
He is saying every word that was ever created in the dictionary and not in the dictionary. And I'm trying to get him to calm down so I can call her. So I had already taught her how to stay alive in situations. And one of the ways that we talked about is if you're ever in a situation like this, being abused, come up with a story. And then when I call you, always put your phone on speakerphone so that he can hear. That way it would allow me to check on him. So I already knew he had a gun. I already knew the situation because Christian called me, and his mother called me. So when I called Mackenzie, I'm like, hey, what's going on? I heard that, there was something happening. Are you okay? And she responded, Mom, I got beat up by some girls. They jumped me. And the abuser, we are headed to his house. And I knew that I was on speakerphone. So I said to him, hey, are you okay? And he said, yes, I'm good, Miss Flanagan, but she's hurt. I said, okay, her dad and I are on our way. We're going to meet you. Where are you headed? And he said, we're going to my house. I said, okay, we're going to meet you there. Just make sure she's okay. And you guys are safe now. And he said, okay. And then she hung up the phone.
And so when she hung up the phone, at what point did you crumble? Because I'm telling you, we give birth to these children. Do you hear me? I can tell when something is wrong with my sons before they call me. I'm telling you, Mackenzie, we are so connected to our children. And you'll understand this when you give birth. You hear me? At some point, if you decide to have children, even if you don't physically decide to have children of your own, but you decide to adopt, even your adopted children, there is such a connection that happens there. So you get off the phone, Carla. You're trying to keep your husband from committing murder while he's driving to go get his child. Right. And so at what point did you crumble?
I did not. I held it together because my husband was losing it. And I just kept saying on the ride there, like, she's going to be okay. And I'm praying, God, I know you got this. We did not, this is not the end here. We're going to get there. It's going to be okay. And I'm saying that the whole way. When we got to his block, the cop pulled up at the same time because the cops didn't have an address. But I didn't really have an address. I couldn't remember it, but I knew the street. And I don't know if I called you for an address, but I remember the house. So we parked in front of the house. The cops came in silent, so they didn't turn their sirens on. And we were all outside. And my husband was trying to get in the house, but the cops couldn't hold him. And so I asked the cops, can they please put him in the car? So they kind of took him as if they were arresting him. Yeah, they had to put him in a police car because he was going through the house. and I needed her to come out, and then he could go through the house.
Mm-hmm.
But we needed her out first.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
so I called like three more times, and he finally let her out the front door.
So, Mackenzie, did you know when your parents arrived? Were you aware of that?
Um, yes, my mom called me and said we are outside. Come outside.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I missed about two of her phone calls because my abuser had my phone with
Mm-hmm.
him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So as soon
So,
as they told me they were out front, he said, "Can I go to the hospital with you?" And I was like, "No, no,
okay.
yeah,
Okay. I am trying to maintain a semblance of calm as I am talking to you. Um, I want you to know that one in four women that are abused by someone that they love, I too went through something very similar. I was sharing that with you before we got on the air,
yes,
and I was married at the time. What I ended up doing was calling my father one night. So I just want you to know how important fathers are. I called my father one night. My parents assumed everything was okay. I called my father one night when my oldest son was a baby, and I wailed wailed, and I'm just spewing out everything, because remember, we pretend as if everything is okay, life
right,
is wonderful, we're not going through anything. And my mother said that was the first and only time she saw my father burst into tears. My father, when he got off the phone with me, um, cried, and said to my mother, "I am getting on a plane and I am going to get my child." He got on a plane from Jamaica and came. Oh, hunty, fathers do not play in these Wakandan streets. They do not. So I just want you to know, whether they live in Timbuktu or they live around the corner from you, your father is going to show up. And my father came and said, "Now let me explain a few things to you." Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that was how my oldest son ended up going to Jamaica for a little while so that I could get myself together. It was horrible, right? And we tend to keep, and I'm telling you this because I was in my 20s, and I felt ashamed to tell my parents that I was in a bad situation, and didn't know how to tell them until it just got so untenable, right? Um, and like even though I was in an abusive situation, the person who was abusive to me is someone who I talk to, because this is respectful. We have good conversations, and I understand there were some other underlying issues going on there. What
Right.
I was not willing to adjust to was the fact that I needed to make sure I was safe, and I rolled out and I didn't look back, right? And
right,
so I'm openly sharing these things with you all because so many people pretend like they don't go through these things. And it's just so wonderful and la-di-da-di and everybody. But human trafficking is still going on in this country at an alarming rate. It's a $15 billion business, right? Fathers are selling their children. The sexual misconduct, people are being abused. Your mother and I talked about it on a radio show for a while. So you're here now, and I'm telling you, as I'm listening to you, my heart is just like pounding because I know exactly what you went through. So when he said you could leave the house to go to your parents, what did that look like for you? How did you get out the house? Did you walk slowly? Was he behind you? Did he let you come out by yourself? What happened?
his room was kind of like the top room, and so he let me go, but he was kind of like behind me, and then stopped like in the living room because I think he kind of noticed some commotion outside, like I'm about to go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
This is not good. So he let me go. When I did get in the house, though, his sisters gave me a little wet washcloth and kind of that didn't really do anything, but they were freaking out on him and yelling at him.
Mm-hmm.
And he just complete. It was a whole different person. He was just a very angry, devilish look to him.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
she came outside,
So I came outside and
and that's when we lost it.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
she was unrecognizable on one half of her face. It was complete. We couldn't even understand what scars or what injury she had because it was just her eye was out to here and it was just all covered in blood.
Mhm.
And then she had like dried blood coming from her ear, blood on her ear.
Mhm.
She handed over her phone. It was covered in blood.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
the cops let my husband to go into the ambulance with her. I
Mhm.
stayed back to see him get arrested.
Mhm.
I ended up leaving, but because it was taking too long for the cops to go in. But
Right. So, what injuries did you sustain, Mackenzie?
So when I got to Paoli Trauma Hospital, they actually said I was lucky to be alive.
Mhm.
Um, I was lucky my eye didn't pop out the socket.
Wow.
So my injuries were concussion, orbital fractures, broken nose, um,
cheekbones.
cheekbones broken. They weren't sure
Both your
because
cheekbones were broken?
She literally he
like
literally fractured from her forehead to her chin. All of this was
so
shattered.
my face was uneven.
He shattered the whole left side of her face.
Okay.
So she ended up with the concussion on top of it and a brain injury
Mhm.
Yes.
and the
And
eye issues.
so with my eye, I'm now partially blind in my left eye. I
Mhm.
can't see straight forward. I have some peripheral vision.
Mhm.
So that's a whole life changer.
Mhm.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
was the big one.
Mhm. I am making a commitment to you that I'm reaching out to my national contacts. I want students and young ladies everywhere to hear your story, beyond what we're talking about in Philadelphia. And folks will share it, but you know, the openness and the transparency of your journey is what caught me about you, right? You didn't play the games. You didn't say, I didn't know. You didn't say any of those things. You were like, this is what happened. These are the choices that I made, and this is where I am today. So I know
Exactly.
you have Z's reflection, but I want you now to tell young people what you learned from this. And then, Carla, I want you to tell me what has since happened to her abuser, and what have you done to make sure that he wasn't locked up for the rest of his life?
So from this life experience, I learned that go with your gut feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you need to have someone you're a safe person you're comfortable with telling,
Mm-hmm.
going to talk about these things.
Mm-hmm.
I regret not telling my parents immediately these red flags. I
Mm-hmm.
learned to have good communication with my parents now. They're like my best
Mm-hmm.
friends now. I tell them
Mm-hmm.
everything. And know your worth, and you do not deserve that, and do not sit through it. And I know it's hard to get out of it, so you need to tell a safe person, contact the domestic violence hotline, your local domestic violence organizations. Just please, please know you do not deserve that, and you are beautiful.
Do you know the number to the domestic violence hotline?
It's 1-800. I used to know. Why don't I know it?
I know.
That's
Yeah,
terrible.
that's okay. The Laurel House, which is where I saw that you had some affiliation with, the Com Society, a group I worked with and founded in Abington. We donated tons of things to the Laurel House. We did.
Oh
We
wow,
wanted to
that's
make sure,
awesome.
see how, because we all understand what it is like, at some point to go through this. What's the domestic violence hotline?
Okay, so it's 1-800
Mm-hmm.
799 safe.
Mm-hmm. 799 safe. So it's 1-800-799 safe. We
Correct.
asked you that because we don't know who may be watching that may be in a situation like this right now. And we
Yes.
make assumptions that these things aren't happening, especially with grown women. I spoke with grown women who said they were being sexually trafficked. They would go to work and during the day and was sexually trafficked at night and was in church and they were the deaconess and everything else and no one knew. And so the ultimate goal is to get more people to speak up about these things
Yes.
and not walk in shame, right?
Yes.
And to let us know that we all our paths are divergent. We make mistakes, and it's okay when we learn the lessons from the mistakes, right?
Right.
Your severe injuries that you got and what you went through was not for you, right? Because you've now taken this and used it to help elevate and speak to other people. And there's something about your soul, there's something about your spirit, Mackenzie, that's open and warm and inviting. Not everybody can do this. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
So I applaud you for your courage and your bravery, and I continue to wish that great things happen for you. Um, when you had to go to court, talk about the court process and what could be done differently. Oh Lord, Carla. Yeah. Okay, talk about the court process for me.
So the court process was really hard, and my advice when we talk to women and their parents, especially the moms, we
Mhm.
have to do a better job at listening and allowing them to communicate truth to us, whether we
Ah.
like it or not.
Mhm.
Because he started immediately, he was locked up and charged as an adult,
Mhm.
and he was contacting her from jail to apologize, to get her on his side, to
Mhm.
convince her to let her parents know that she loved him and they were going to be together and he was sorry.
Mhm.
And so she had hid like the first two phone calls from me, and I think we actually found out in court.
Yeah.
We
Oh my.
found out
So
in
so
court.
so even after all of that, you tell me what was going through your head, Mackenzie, that even after all of that you were still sort of kind of protective of him.
Yes. I accepted two jail calls from him, and my mom kind of explained what he was saying, but I felt bad that he was in jail. I still cared for him. I still loved him. I was worried about him. I wanted him to at least be back at home, safe with his family.
Mhm.
These are all the emotions that are normal. And I
Mhm.
try to explain to the younger woman and
Mhm.
the older women that I talk to that it's okay because it's normal.
Mhm.
Right.
And I didn't know how my mom would take me telling her that I was accepting these calls and I still loved him.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
So
when I
that.
found out about it, I had a conversation with her. Her and I sat down and I said, "Listen, I get it. We
Mhm.
are emotional beings.
Mhm.
Your heart is still attached to him no matter what he did to you.
Mhm.
And it's okay because that's going to take time.
Mhm.
However, you cannot accept his phone calls ever again."
Right. Mhm. Mhm.
And she said, she admitted everything she just said, but she also said, "I was scared not to."
Mm.
And
Mhm.
so in that moment, I think she burst out in tears and she was like, "Thank you, mom.
Yeah.
I understand, but thank you for not being mad at me before accepting it. I didn't know what to do." I said, "Listen, your heart's going to be there for a while, but
Mhm.
we're here and we're going to walk through this together."
Mhm.
So the
You
court
so so
process
so
was,
hold on one second,
yep,
Carla, because you just taught an amazing lesson to parents everywhere. We tend to want to freak out. Oh my God, can't believe you're doing that. He tried to kill you. Why are you doing that? What you said was, I understand why you feel the way you do. Right? You came from a place of compassion and empathy so that your daughter could trust you and open up even more. Did y'all get that, parents? Please let me not have to have this conversation with y'all again. We cannot scream our children our way into making our children do what we want them to do.
no.
The when we don't listen to our children is when we have issues. My 24-year-old son called me the other day and said one of his friends committed suicide, jumped in front of a train. This is a few weeks ago, right? And when I said to him, "What is it that we are missing as parents?" He said exactly what you said, Carla. You
Yeah,
all don't listen. You don't listen. You
yeah,
if you listen to us, you would hear the clues in the things we say and the things we don't say, right? And
yep.
so these kinds of shows are very important for me to highlight because we just never know what parents are missing in their busyness and their everyday stuff. And well, they used to talk, but they're not so talking anymore. I don't know, they're on their phone all the time. Like, pay attention, y'all, pay attention. All right, so you get
And
to court.
culturally, we're always yelling, right?
Yes,
Black and brown
yes.
parents are known to just lose it.
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
And
mhm.
we can't do that. We
Can't.
have to listen.
We cannot. We cannot because we don't even know what trauma that
No,
even that young man had gone through to get to the place where he was so
right.
abusive and
And
what was
we found
happening in
out
his
that later.
family. See what I mean? Because
Yeah.
no child is born an abuser.
Nope.
No child. Okay. So what happened in the court process?
So the court process lasted about 2 years. We went back and forth, back and forth. I felt like, and she felt like she was re traumatized over and over and over again. We spent a lot of time in the courtroom, a
Mhm.
lot of time locked up in a room as a witness. My husband and I had to become witnesses as well. And
Mhm.
so they wanted her to testify without us in the room, and I refused to do that.
Mhm.
At this point, we had a trauma therapist working with her. We had the domestic violence organization working with her. And that's another thing. I had, because of my work in the community, I couldn't find an organization to help my 17-year-old girl.
Wow.
I had to call the executive director of Laurel House to say, listen, I know you guys don't really work with kids at this point. And again, back then they totally did it. I said, but I need help for my daughter. No one will take her because she's 17, but this is happening. And Beth was awesome. And she's like, call us, call our counselor. We will take care of you guys. And that was helpful because she got an advocate to be in court with her.
Great. Yeah.
And so that worked out. They came to us and they asked us, can his charges be dropped from adult charges to juvenile? Because I work in the system and I believe in second chances, I felt I kind of advocated with my husband and Mackenzie for us to make a family decision. Adult jail would send him to adult jail, for 2 years, and he would learn to do adult crimes. He would learn to do more and not get the rehab that we needed him to get. So as a family, we made the decision for him to go to juvenile, for him to get anger management, for him to get assessments, for him to get cognitive behavior therapy, all of those things. And so he went to juvenile court. We went through that process. He ended up serving a total of about a year and a half, 2 years in state juvenile facility after leaving Chester County adult jail.
And I do have a PFA against him.
And you filed a PFA.
Yes.
Right. Okay. All right. So, what did you find out in his background that made you aware that this was not ordinary behavior for him?
He grew up in a single parent household. He didn't have a father in his life. His mother had the men that were in her life, or it might have been his father, but he grew up watching the abuse. His mother had testified that he grew up in an abusive household. So he's seen it happen to his mother over and over again. And then she wasn't present in the household a lot. She was kind of out. And so all of those things, and they said that he was under the influence on that night.
Wow.
He had taken Xannies, they said, that night, which caused him to be so angry, or which added to it.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about the lessons learned here. If you, Mackenzie, when we talk about the lessons learned, what was the first red flag you saw that you know now in hindsight that you ignored, that you would want other young people to pay attention to?
So the first red flag was him asking to see my phone, or just like taking my phone out of my hand. That I know, even I have a god sister who's in high school. That's not cute. That's not love. That's them taking control. That's like the first step of control. So that's a huge red flag that I would.
So that's the first one. What other lessons did you learn from this experience that you could pass on to anyone who's watching this?
A huge lesson I learned was to never. We're too young to put a man first. I learned not to. In my next relationships, don't put them first, put me first, and I have to love myself first in order for me to love someone else.
At 17.
Listen, I'm glad she got it. I'm glad she got it. I know 50 and 60-year-olds who still have not gotten that, okay? Who have not realized that you have to be a complete whole person by yourself, loving yourself, experiencing yourself just the way you are, because no one can complete you. It's a fallacy that people talk about, right?
Right.
Okay, all right. So it's the first red flag was the phone, not cute, not love, too young to put a man first, love yourself wholly and completely. All right, what are the red flags, that you saw that you would do differently now, that you want other people to know about?
Him asking, calling my friends, asking where I am, and I was giving into that, like, oh, tell him, lie and say I'm here. Like, no, now I'm here, and you can't tell me where I can or can't be. So yes, I'm here. Now what?
Yeah.
So I learned to just be a more stronger person and know my worth, and I don't have to answer to anyone.
That will balance itself out for you as you get older, right? Right around 40, you're gonna be like, child. Talk to me when you're about 35. Talk about all those things. So and I'm laughing and talking about those things now because I am married to what we would call a nerd, very laid back. I mean, laid back. I will say to him, I feel like driving across the country. He's like, okay, babe, take care. I'll pray for you. And he'll make sure the car's all gassed up and make sure I'm okay because he's got his own things going on. And I'm sharing this with you because you want to be with someone who is wholly and completely who they are on their own and outside of you. We're very respectful of each other. We don't step across boundaries. We're not disrespectful. But he's never raised his voice to me in the 11 years that we've been a couple. I mean, never. Okay, he's always put my wants and needs first, things that I didn't realize because I thought I was supposed to be cooking, cleaning, fixing the little broken wing birds, I call them, right? And you know them when they come. Learn the lessons when they come, and that's for men and women, because there's some women out here who are broken wing birds too and will do it. I've seen men who have been abused horrifically by women and they don't say anything because they're afraid that people will laugh at them. Speak up and get out and take care of yourself. It is not worth it.
Yeah.
Absolutely not worth it. Carla, what are the lessons you learned on from all of this? I wish I was talking to your husband because I could almost see
Oh
him.
my goodness. So I think for me, and I'll speak a little bit for him,
Mhm,
it was really hard for him because he's the dad, he's the protector.
mhm,
And so that was hard. He really took it to heart, like what am I doing wrong as a father and us as a married couple that she would think having a relationship with someone like this is okay. So that was the hard part for us as a married couple.
mhm,
I think for parents, you have to have open communication. Her and I have always had a good relationship. We always did mom daughter time. We always enjoyed each other's company, which is why I thought I could trust her completely, which is why I felt like if there was something going on, she would tell me. But again, later I realized that I still was doing some of that, like you tell me something and oh my God, I'm going to jump on it.
mhm, mhm,
I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna handle it. I'm gonna stop you. I'm gonna do all those things.
mhm,
Now I know that I have to listen and then I have to separate myself to deal with whatever emotion I may be feeling, and then I can come back to her.
mhm, mhm.
But I think as parents, we have to pay attention. Those signs mean something, right?
Yes,
That
yes.
15 minutes late, that 20 minutes late, that
Mhm,
10 minutes, those little things, a change in their behavior, a
mhm,
change in their schedule. She
mhm,
was very athletic in high school.
mhm,
She started throwing the javelin and that was new for her.
mhm,
And she made
Pack
the
times.
Pac-10s.
mhm,
And
Oh
one
my
day she
God.
came home. I was like, I thought you had practice. I thought,
mhm,
the Pac-10s, the championship, like what's happening?
mhm,
She was like, oh yeah, I actually didn't make the cut.
mm,
And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? She's like, yeah, it's fine. I guess, I'll keep trying.
mhm.
But little did I know she quit because he wanted her to
To
quit.
quit. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it communication, but listening. So
Mhm,
not just communicating, right? We talk all the time. You have to listen and notice the signs.
mhm,
Pay attention. As
mhm,
parents, we have to do a better job at having conversation that is not threatening or violent. Like we
mhm.
can't do that. We have to listen.
Yes,
Listen, listen, listen.
agreed. So what would you do differently now?
To be honest, I can say I probably wouldn't do anything different.
Mhm, mhm,
I'm really comfortable in where we were at. We talked to her about him. I gave her every tool that she could use. That's
right.
also important. You don't think it could happen, but you have to have a plan in place. It
Mhm,
happens to 1 in 3 high school girls, one in
mhm.
three
Wow.
girls under the age of 17. I'm
Mhm,
sorry, 16 to 24.
mhm,
And we've talked to girls 12 and 14 that are being pushed around by the boys.
mhm,
Believe it could happen. Have good communication. Listen to our kids. Don't always make it so that when they tell us something, they're in trouble.
mhm, mhm.
However, she was in trouble
Right, right.
because she wasn't supposed. Hotel parties are super popular with these teenagers,
Mhm. Oh, okay. So,
the black and brown kids especially, but
mhm,
with teenagers in general, hotel parties are very, very popular.
Mhm.
mhm. What
And
else
so
is
she,
what else is popular? Because I want parents to know. Because I think these parents don't even realize what else is popular. Where else are they going? Even in COVID, like what rooms are they showing up in on their phones that parents aren't aware about that they need to be aware of?
Yeah, so like my mom said, hotel parties,
Hmm.
fake social media.
What is a fake
Airbnb.
social media?
They have a regular account that the parents are aware of, and then they have a fake account that the parents aren't aware of.
It's
Well, the
called,
fake account is called Finstagram. So that's the fake one they show the parents. That's the one where they accept us. Then they have a real account, and that's the one where it all goes down. The pictures, the
it's opposite.
communication. Oh, the
Yeah.
opposite. Look, I'm old. It's the opposite.
The real Instagram is where you accept your parents, and then the Finsta is like stuff you wouldn't post on your real Instagram, stuff you
Uh-huh.
don't want all your followers to see.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, that Airbnbs, renting out Airbnbs for the weekend with your friends, drinking,
Mhm.
smoking weed, all that
Mhm.
stuff goes down.
Mhm.
All of
Mhm.
it.
Mhm. You know why I asked all of these things? We have 3 minutes left before we get off there. And I want to thank the two of you. This was a great conversation. I told you, didn't I tell you this was going to be easy?
This was
Mackenzie,
awesome.
I'm
I
trying to
loved
tell
it.
you. I'm trying to tell you, honey. You talk to Marva, it's going to feel like you're in the living room having a whole
Yes.
conversation, honey.
Yeah.
Yes. So these last 3 minutes, I want to use to let parents know. Be prepared for your children to make mistakes. We like to pretend like our children are just perfect human beings who are going to never do anything wrong because, after all, we moved into great communities. We drive nice cars. Our husband and are together because I hear this all the time, right? And we're in great high schools and our children are popular and doing well. What we did not take into account is that we're still living in these United States of America and that anything can and will happen, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And that as parents, we have to give our children the latitude to make mistakes.
Right.
One of the things that I did with my sons, and we still do it to this day, is when they were younger, I said to them, when you're ready to have a family meeting where there will be no repercussions, let me know. So they'll go, they'll come and they'll say, Mommy, let's have a family meeting. And they go, no repercussions, right? I go, no. And what I ended up doing from the time they were young babies, like 7, 8, and 9, we formed a relationship so that they knew that there were certain things they could come and tell me without repercussions. And
Right.
we could talk about it calmly. Now, inside, I'm like, Jesus,
Right. Right.
why are you telling me this stuff? But I don't say that to them. My head is going, why are they telling me all this craziness?
Right.
And call
Right.
your daddy. Call your daddy and tell your daddy these things. I don't want to know this. But outside, I'm like, sure, tell me more.
Right. Yep.
And so when they are going through things, then we get the call, right? Then they'll call and give you the
Right.
clue, and we will
Right.
know as parents what to do. So I'm going to tell parents, stop expecting your children to be perfect,
Right.
and listen to them. Listen to what they're saying and what they're not saying, and learn from stories like Mackenzie and Carla, because
Right.
they're just a microcosm of so many instances where we
Right.
see this kind of stuff happening around the country. I'm so proud of you, Mackenzie.
Thank you
I'm
so
so
much.
proud of you. You're
Thank
going
you.
to do amazing things. This is not the end of your journey, it is just the beginning. And
Yeah.
you're going to end up helping. God chose you.
Yes.
You were chosen.
Yeah.
Trust me, to experience some of these things, and you will continue to experience things throughout your life, and you will be able to use those experiences to help many, many people in awesome places. And look what your mother does. She works in this kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
And so you would think it wouldn't happen to you, but here it
Right.
is. Right? So never say never, parents. Never
Never.
say never.
Never.
Okay? Listen to your babies. And let me just tell you, I'm so happy that we had this conversation, Carla
too.
and
Yes.
Mackenzie.
I am.
I loved it.
See, I told you it was going to be awesome. What did I worry about? This version of the Ask Mother Lunch Hour Live is officially over. Goodbye. Hold on, you two. Let me get off Facebook Live because you know. Let's see.